welcome to another episode of Addiction Uncovered. I'm Jill, your host, and today I'm joined by Maraleigh. Maraleig's son struggled with addiction for years after losing a friend to suicide in high school. Several other life events led him to escape through substances to cope. And as a mother and a therapist, her heart broke just to know there wasn't much she can do to fix it for him. She's here to share a mother's perspective of what it's like to love and care for a child who is in the midst of addiction, and the hope that other parents will find hope and inspiration from that, and to feel that they're not alone. So,
absolutely.
Welcome to the show, Maraleigh. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me here.
Yeah, of course. So share a little bit about, as much as you're comfortable with, and I know we are going to eventually, or have had your son on too, so I'm excited to hear that that side of the story as well. But just share with us what you're comfortable with of your son's addiction and where that started, or kind of how that progressed.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting, and I told you right before we started, there's a lot of it I don't remember well because it just kind of evolved, and so we didn't really quite catch it until it got pretty far down the line. So as far as Austin goes, he is a kiddo, he's sensitive, he's a sweetheart, would do nothing to hurt a single person, right? And so going up through his years up until high school, he had like a little anxiety, struggled with, but he has the ADHD, typical things that maybe a kid that's sensitive would have, right? And so when he was going through high school, I noticed the anxiety was getting a little worse, a little bit of like the obsessive compulsive tendencies tend to run in our family. Mm-hmm. So we had a great psychiatrist that was working with him and following him. And it was a challenge. He really struggled with the anxiety piece, which then led to struggling with depression, secondary. So, but everything seemed normal teenage boy, right? When he was a senior in high school, he was struggling more. I could tell. I think maybe there was some substance use then. I'm just learning about some of it more from Austin now that we're talking more about it. And when it was January of his senior year, and his very best friend since elementary school died by suicide, and it just rocked all of our world. Yeah. And so at that point, we were just surviving, right? And he had like the hope of going to college in the fall. He had a scholarship for baseball and was going to play ball in the fall at Mount Mercy in Iowa. And so come spring, the baseball team, the coach cut him from the baseball team, because he was not as engaged as he was prior to his friend dying by suicide. So his one love, his one support network, his one everything, and then one thing he was going to college for was like taken right out from under him. Mm-hmm. And so that kind of added and compounded the trauma piece. Yeah. So, but when he went to school in the fall, we're like, okay, he's making his way through it. He's moving through. He was being clear. He's like, I'm not going to drink because I'm on the team. It was very deliberative. And then COVID hit. And then, so he was home. Learning online is almost an impossibility with someone with ADHD, right? And this is where I look back as a mom and I'm like, what did I miss at this point? I didn't know. None of us knew how to parent. I mean, he was 18. We don't know how to parent a kiddo in college that's living in our house, and it's COVID. This was all new. So I assumed everything was going well. And I think for the most part it was, but I think the drinking was a little bit more often, and he would be tucked away a little bit more. Again, I didn't have anything to go on otherwise.
But I think you struggle too, because when I have an 18-year-old now too. So figuring out, where do I continue to kind of pay attention, monitor, and be a part of, and when do I let them have some space? Because they're in that midst of learning all of those independent living skills. You want to leave them keep doing. They don't want us all over them anyways at that age. So yeah.
No, that's so true. So when I would say that summer, he didn't have a baseball team, right? And so we had to find another baseball team. So his whole sense of footing was removed from underneath of him, and it was, to say the least, really hard. So he went to school in the fall, was stayed as dry as he could. He didn't want to upset, anyone on the varsity. COVID hit. Then he kind of started to just little by little melt away from me, right? When everything from there, honestly, and I know I've shared this with you, is blurry. because around that time too, both my parents got one got diagnosed with cancer, one with Parkinson's. So everything was kind of mixed in together.
Yeah.
You know, and so I will say when I talked with Austin, I said, help me with a timeline, buddy. Like, I know that I would notice that he said he was going to school and he wasn't going to school. And so all the feelings with me was like, are you not telling me the truth? Like, you've always told me the truth. That was really tricky for me.
So the trust then.
The trust
felt
was
unsteady.
Because I'm a therapist, that was my one thing, though, was like, I know trauma. It is my area of expertise, you know, and so I knew underneath of what drives trauma or what drives behaviors. But it was it's hard when you're the parent. It doesn't matter, no matter what training I have. Like, this is my kiddo.
Absolutely. It's like all of the training goes out the window. It is so bizarre. I knew nothing. Looking from the outside in, you would think, okay, well, you're a therapist. You probably know how to do that. I was working with children and adolescents for a long time. And so it was just like, okay, when my kiddos had something go on, you would think, no.
It all just left my brain.
When you're emotionally invested and it's your own child, it's a different ballgame. And then it also, though, helps you to understand and empathize when you're working with parents, 100%, right?
100%. Yeah, and because I can sit there and I, if you haven't had someone that struggled with addiction, I don't know if you would fully know what it feels like. And I would say that if I had a client that had someone in their family with addiction, of course I would empathize, of course I would help. But when you're in it, and you feel all of the complexity of it, you feel the mom, like as a mom, you feel the guilt, and you feel the, what did I do wrong? And you feel the grief. Grief was really big for me. Like, oh my gosh, like he was my little guy, and what's going on, what's happening? Like, I'm losing that part of him. And that's one comment Austin said. I said, what do you, like, he said, I remember you made a comment to me, and it made the biggest difference. He said, you said to me, I think I'm losing you. And I was like, I don't remember saying it. But those words that we say as parents are really important. Because there's another thing he said, too, that I said, and I don't remember. But our words matter. And so I'm thankful I said that, you know.
Yeah, it stuck with him.
Yeah. So what was tricky in all of this, though, was the finding a therapist for him. As a therapist, I thought this will be...
Sure, I know where to look. I know who to look for.
I know people. And it was almost an impossibility because I knew so much about what he needed for therapy because, you know, I'm EMDR trained. I know the trauma piece, and I wanted someone that also had that, that skill set. And I wanted someone that understood addiction because I did not understand it. So I called around, I hunted around like we all do as moms, and found someone who was phenomenal. I begged him to see Austin because it felt like a good match. Old soul energy. Austin connected right away. And so I don't even know. I can't remember how long they saw each other, but he was Austin's kind of guide through alcoholism. And I asked Austin the other day, if you were still working with Lauren, do you feel like you would have been making progress? He said, absolutely. And so what happened was during the time he was seeing Lauren, he was making progress, and then we got notice that Lauren died by suicide. And so then he lost his therapist to suicide.
Yeah.
And I think that's around the time, because Austin said when he turned 21 is when he really knew. And he'll speak more to that. But and that's around the time his therapist died by suicide. And it happened to be on the exact date that his friend died by suicide. But 4 years later, it was the exact date. Yeah.
Wow.
And so that's when the major collapse happened. Understandably, I don't know how he would not have, you know.
Absolutely.
So that is when things he said once he turned 21, he was drinking every day. It was like, I could do it. I could just go and go and go. So some of these stories I'm just hearing now because we're just talking about it. He's just 1 year in. I say that it's a big deal that he's 1 year in,
It is.
but he had to work so hard for that 1 year. And so we're just now hearing the stories, and it's been a proud mama across the board, right?
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
How do you navigate all of the feelings? And do you even remember, because you're in survival mode?
Yeah.
But can you tell us a little more about what kind of feelings you were having during the midst of that, and how you navigated it?
Yeah. It was a lot. It was a lot. You know, when I talk to my clients about like when you have trauma, because it's very traumatizing to have a kiddo with addiction or major mental health, right? It's like this ball of twine, right? And it's all twisted up with all the emotions, the grief, the anger, the shame, absolutely everything that goes with it. I had all of those. And I think you just go into survival mode. And I was in, like, I'm in it. I was a fighter, meaning a fighter for, let's find the right resource. Let's find I was just going to find the right things. Mm-hmm. And it was hard to find the right things, right? So I was more action-based like that.
Well, if you're anything like me, it feels like when we're doing things, that keeps our minds busy, and it keeps us from feeling all of the things.
Yes,
it's
absolutely.
a trauma response too, right?
It is functional, right? Mm-hmm. I'm going to be functional and all the things. Isolating. When I was really thinking about coming on here, the one thing that was really the hardest feeling for me was how isolating it felt for me.
How so?
Because it felt like, it feels like you're doing it on your own when other people would not understand. So when, if I, like with his siblings or whatnot, they see him as brother. They're not, you know what I mean? They get annoyed with a brother, and just like he would with the sisters. Mm-hmm. The people who really would have understood would be my parents, and they were not around and available at that time. Here's when I realized it. And when a colleague of mine at school came and talked to me because she knew my son had some challenges, to share her experience with her son, I realized, I'm like, oh my gosh, somebody gets it. Mm-hmm. That's what I was missing. I could not find someone that got it. Mm-hmm. Because they'd just be like, well, they just have to stop drinking, or they have to, it's kind of these blanket statements. Mm-hmm. Or it would be like, oh my gosh, like brushing it off. Mm-hmm. And it's so much deeper than that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so I can imagine the boundaries that you had to set and how hard that must have been too. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a little bit about what those boundaries were and how you did that?
Yep. And so I had to ask Austin as well because Austin's an empath. Austin is a big heart. I am as well. So I know how he works. And so when I talked to him the other night, I said, what boundaries did I have? Because to me, I worked with a lot of families where the boundaries have to be really rigid and cut off and all the things. And he was living with me, and I came from a trauma lens because I knew that we had to heal this trauma up, but we also had to stop the drinking. It was both and. Mm-hmm. So he had to pause too. And he said, I required therapy. If you're going to live in my house, you're going to therapy. You're going to go to regular appointments with a psychiatrist. We tried a group, and it just was not the right mix for him. Mm-hmm. And so we stayed the course, found another therapist. That was my one very clear thing.
Why was that so important for you?
The therapy?
Yeah.
Because he needed to process, move through the trauma, and develop the skills and coping skills. Why am I drinking to begin with? Now that this has kind of become such a part of my life, what is in its place? Right?
I suppose being really grateful that he was open to that.
Yes, 100%.
That's good. Because some would be resistant to it or fight it, but that's good that he was open to it.
When I think he was hesitant because people were going to call him out, but that was the big one where I'm like, if you're going to be with me at home, you need to go to therapy. I'm a therapist. You have to go, period. Mm-hmm. And so there was some dragging of the feet and whatnot, but especially when he lost his therapist.
Of course.
That was really tricky.
Yeah.
Other than that, you're not going to have alcohol in this house. As a parent, so, it's kind of funny now because I'm like, what do I smell? And he's like, you don't smell anything. I would get hypersensitive to the smell of alcohol. Mm-hmm. I would get hypersensitive to any sneakiness. It took me a while. Even now, it'll hit me and I'm like, okay, there's not alcohol in this house. We're okay. Mm-hmm. So that was a boundary too that I put into place. And he said, there are some that probably need that really hard line boundary. He said, but here's what he said. You did not leave me. And he said, I knew you had my back. And he said, my own shame that I kept bringing stuff home and I knew it bothered you. The shame was the boundary for me.
Sorry, that gets me a little bit of emotional, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's those things that we don't do, the nonverbals and how we show up.
Right.
That makes a difference.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it's not easy. It is not easy as a parent.
Right. And we talk about boundaries and how important they are and all these things, but it's difficult to figure out based on your relationship, based on what's going on, based on safety. There's all these factors you have to navigate through to decide what is the boundary. And boundaries change
They do.
right?
Yeah.
So as the person changes or as we change or things that maybe were okay with us before become not okay. And
Right.
there's just not a real black and white roadmap to do that.
No, because trust is broken again, then we have to kind of start back over. That was, I don't, like I said, it's a lot of a blur, but I do know those are the key for boundaries. I mean, it was funny because I'm like, I don't know what I did. And he's like, I don't know either. You required therapy. He's been a sensitive kid. He's a big heart. For him, he had to learn his own boundaries. He had to learn his own thing. But that's where I put my foot down, I think.
Yeah. Question about not having alcohol in the house. And you can decide if you want to share this or not. I'm just throwing this at you. But did that change your drinking? Because I think about parents who are in that space of, okay, so I'm telling my kiddo to not drink, or I'm not having alcohol in the house. It makes you reevaluate, where am I at with that? And I'm okay with removing that from my life, or how did you deal with that?
Yeah, actually, I rarely drink, so it was not a problem for me. Maybe when his sisters were home, they would have some there. So if any alcohol was in the house, it was because he brought it.
And I think of it too, because I'm in a relationship with someone who is sober as well.
Yeah.
And I've never been with anyone who is sober. And so I'm grateful that he is, because it just makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
This is just not in the house. We don't think about it.
Yep.
And so I've been sober for over 2 years now.
That's amazing.
And having someone around who just doesn't do
Just
that,
not a thing.
it just makes it easier, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
okay.
So it's
Well,
just
thanks
him
for
and me
being
in the
honest.
house. So,
yeah.
there's no alcohol,
Yeah.
which is good.
Yeah. It just makes it easy.
Yeah.
So going back to those feelings that you were having toward him at that time, and just being, sounds like very afraid and heartbroken and all of those things. What are some things that you feel like are important for parents to know if they're in that position? So I know that's a big piece of what you really want to get out there and advocate for.
Yeah.
So talk to us about that.
Yeah. I would say, because it is really isolating, finding a therapist you trust. If this is the other thing too, if you don't like the first therapist, find another one. Same thing with your kid too. If they don't like the first therapist, try a couple times and find another one. There are always matches out there, and it's really discouraging, but find the right one would be the first thing.
Well, and I think people feel like, well, I can't tell them that they're not the right one for us.
Yes,
It's almost like dating in a sense. It's so bizarre. But as therapists, we're very used to that. And we would much rather have someone tell us,
Please tell me.
oh, this isn't working.
Yep.
Thanks, but no thanks. And we can get you with somebody else. It just makes more sense.
Yeah.
We don't want to waste any time or energy or have you frustrated with the process and not
and ruin
come
it for
back.
you. Ruin the process. For you.
Yeah. So please shop around. It's okay. We can handle it.
to do that. Go back to the question.
Oh, yeah. So what kind of things do you think parents need to know?
Okay.
You said therapy, and then what are some other things they can do to take care of themselves? And
Well, I think, first of all, it's not your fault would be the one thing that I had to remind myself. This isn't my fault. I always went that path, like, what did I do wrong? It's not our fault. It is what it is, right? I did not think there was any alcoholism link in our family. And even if there wasn't, it's still, this is what's happening. But as time went on, we discovered there is an alcohol link in the family, and an alcoholism link in the family. So that helped me even biologically to be like, okay, that's, so I deep dived and I learned all about it, and, so other things for parents, if there is a group, I looked at groups to go to, like, I looked at like Al-Anon or whatnot, and that just did not feel like a right thing for me. No. But I know some other parents find that very helpful. Self-care is huge, because you'll find that you are up at night, you're worrying, you're pacing, your emotions go all over the place. One of the things that, kind of going back to the therapy thing, one of the things when you're in survival mode all the time is you don't realize the message you're carrying the whole time. So when Austin, and this just happened a couple months ago, he's coming up on a year, he sent me, I was at work at my school job, and he sent me a text that showed me his 9-month sobriety coin. And I was totally fine. And all of a sudden I was sobbing. And I'm like, why am I sobbing? Why am I sobbing at school? What is happening? And then it hit me. It was the first time I realized I thought he was going to make it. I did not know that whole time that I was scared to death I was going to lose him. And that, and I told him, I said, I just sobbed like at school. But I didn't realize how afraid I was losing him, because he had lost, he's lost people to drug and alcohol addiction. And I did not know. So those, like, the traumatic part as a mom or as a parent was this underlying fear of, like, I don't know if I'm going to get this kid back. Mm-hmm. That was big. And I did not realize it as a therapist, did not realize it until I was sobbing in my office.
Mm-hmm. It is. It's so scary. I can only imagine what that feels like, just to see him going through all the things he was and just afraid.
Terrified.
Because people are taken, their lives are taken by this addiction.
Right.
And you just don't want him to be another one. It's just close to you, and you just don't want to see that happen for him. And you're seeing all of his, like, growth through childhood, and then his baseball and, like, all this stuff that he's doing to grow, and you see all that potential, and you just worry, like, please don't let this take you from me.
Yep.
Right.
Well, and he even said, and this was the other day, and this kind of knocked me a little bit. He said, there were many times I just didn't want to be here. And he said, but I knew I could never do that to you. That is a powerful relationship. He said that I could not put you through that.
Tell us more about the power of relationship.
Yeah, it is. And the relationship was, huge. And I think as parents, and because I work with so many parents, like as a therapist, we go to fear mode. And my hope is that, like, parents practice curiosity, because so many times, like when I'm working with a teen in my job or whatever, that I find out what's happening, like some traumas, little things that have happened to them that are traumatic to them, that maybe the adult in their world doesn't know about, or maybe then, they didn't capture, or they don't think it was a big deal, but to that kid it was a big deal.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And then they build on shame, then they build on, I'm going to self-medicate, and it starts this process, right?
Mm-hmm. And you alluded to it before, but do you feel like parents sometimes don't want to know because they're afraid of what that might mean about them as a parent?
Well, I can imagine, too, because I kept it pretty close, and I'm usually pretty open, but I kept it close because I did not know how people would react to it.
Yeah, you said it earlier, like, what are people going to think, or did I do something wrong to make this happen?
And I'm a therapist. Like, and even, like, and I wanted to protect him too, because people would make little comments and side comments, like, oh, come on, he can just, and I'm like, okay, you don't understand, and that's okay. And that's when the isolation and the, like, feeling alone, I guess, part hits.
We talk a lot on this show about stigma related to the person who is struggling. And I think that this just shines a light on the stigma that parents
100%
feel.
Yep.
Too.
Yeah. And even, like I said, that one colleague, friend of mine, said something to me. I'm like, anytime, please come, because it is, I wish I'd had that person,
Yeah. Well, and I wonder too, and maybe others know of different resources, but wouldn't it be nice to, maybe something will be created, who knows, but wouldn't it be nice to have a really great support group for parents that are either currently struggling or that are recovering from that daily fear of, am I going to lose my child to this addiction?
And that is amazing, right? Because those are the things I looked for. Like, I need other parents. And I think maybe after this happened, when that friend came up to me, it hit me more that, like, man, that would have been really, like, even mentoring, right? Like,
Well, you think about peer support services, right? Is the same idea. It's just maybe in a group, or other parents that have been through the same thing. I don't know. Maybe that exists somewhere.
I
just need to know.
I feel
or
like
you
I
need to create it or something,
I would have found it if it was there, because I was tired, like you said, like, we just put ourselves in there and we learn what we can. And I poured every ounce of my blood, sweat, and tears trying to find supports, and I could not find them.
Wow.
So I'm grateful for your podcast for that reason too.
Oh, well, good. Well, yeah, hopefully those spaces will be created. Again, that's the point of talking about it out loud, to figure out what is it that we need that we don't have in our community specifically, and how can we create it. It's people like you that will make those things happen too. So, so I guess in closing, my last question would be, what are some things that you maybe, and I know you've mentioned a couple of, like, little nuggets of really good information about what to do, but talk directly to that parent who feels like this is hopeless.
Right. Being as a therapist and as a mom of a kiddo, that little person that you raised is still that little person. They are those same qualities they had when they were little. Remember them. The addiction part is covering up a lot of that, right? Although you feel alone, there are always people out there. It just might take a while to find them. I think what I would have wished someone would have said to me is that there's no judgment here. I am going to be right here with you. If you need anything, please call. But it's hard to find those people, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's why we need to find some of those communities. Don't give up. Don't. It's really easy. It would be hard to just say, I can't do this anymore. But also sometimes that's where we get to that point when we're in a panic and we're more stressed. Get help, get support for someone to come in, or get your kiddo to get some help with a provider. Because if you're paired up with someone, you're less likely to just be like, I can't do this anymore.
Because that therapist can support you too sometimes.
You have one other person at least. So if anything, finding a good therapist, and there are really great therapists out there.
Well, you being one of them.
Well, thank you.
So thank you for what you're doing.
Yes, thank you.
And thank you so much for coming and sharing this perspective, because it's so important. Not only are we really trying to give that support and hope to people who are struggling with addiction, but those family members that just don't know what to do and just want their kids to live through it and to be successful in their lives. So this is really helpful, and I know we're going to link some ways to get in contact with you. So I really appreciate you being here. Thank you so much.
Well, I appreciate you having me. It was a wonderful experience. Thank you.
Oh, good. Awesome.